That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast.
ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to episode 112 of That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast. This is posting on the 4th of November 2022. Fáilteasteach, I am Conal O'Moran. Today, as we record, is National Cliché Day, a word that means a ready-made phrase that no thought was put into writing, which is kind of apt, as I've heard my podcast scripts described in the same way. Happy Cliché Day to you all. On this episode, we bring you tech insights that will be changing the way you do business, as well as a way that you can sell your property for just a fraction of what it costs today. And who brings you all these great business insights? De Facto Shaving Oil does. Now is a great time to get a load of small presents bought, done and dusted. It's something you can do sitting on the bus, watching TV, or even listening to this podcast, and you will avoid the last minute panic. You know what I'm talking about. De Facto Shaving Oil is the world's best shaving oil. No, not a beard oil, a shaving oil. A shaving oil that replaces carcinogenic shaving foams. One small bottle of De Facto lasts the guts of a year and is an affordable present from a child to an adult. As we say, it's for men and women, so it's the best anyone can get. Buy it now on defactoshave.com. And do not like us, but do share us. Press the share button on LinkedIn so the world will know you listen to quality podcasts. Of course, it's good for us too. You can also send the link on WhatsApp to your buddies in business.
It's all go, let Cursey know on ThatGreatBusinessShow.com. That Great Business Show.
If you work with Sherry FitzGerald, Lisneys, DNG or the likes, please close your ears right now, because we don't like upsetting our lovely listeners after all. I give you that parental warning because my next guest says they can save you the guts of €5,000 when selling a house. And since 2018, they claim to have sold €350 million worth of property, saving vendors around €4.4 million in fees compared to the traditional agencies. Helen O'Keefe is co-founder of Auctioneera, and she joins me in studio now all the way from East Cork. Helen, you're very welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you, Conal. It's delightful to be here.
That's not bad. 4.4 million in savings and fees. Now, lots of questions.
Okay.
Because it's almost too good to be true. Sure. Discuss.
Okay, and I understand where that comes from because, you know, I suppose entering an industry as traditional as a state agency, you know, that where's the catch line was one that we got very much at the outset. You know,
you see, I'm just asking you the obvious questions. That's all I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Happy to answer. And the simple answer to it is there is no catch. When you break down the costs of selling a property, you know, the fact that we can sell it at a lower price obviously is going to generate that question. We can do it because while we offer full estate agency service, we can reduce our costs. For example, one of the main ways is we don't have a high street presence. So, for example, we won't have an office in Ballsbridge Main Street. We won't have an office, you know, in the middle of Cork city centre, you know, with a window that people are going to be looking in to look at the properties. But I suppose what people have to understand as well is that the way of buying property has changed substantially over the last number of years, in that previously people would have to walk up high streets and look in windows and look in property books and literally trawl through pages to see what properties they want to look at. Whereas today, the market for buying a property is on Daft and on My Home. So literally you can take out your phone and you can look at property today in any location in the world, in fact. So a major cost that's taken out of our business is that, a high street presence.
You have to have a person, man or woman, in the property to walk around the property with you and to be physically there. So
of course you do.
Still need a person.
100%. And we do not omit that most important element. So, our industry is regulated by the PSRA. We, of course, like every other estate agency, have property negotiators. We have them based in various areas around Dublin and in Cork. You can't actually take out that from the transaction. It's a huge financial transaction for people, both selling and buying. So to be honest, you can't, while some people would say, look, I can sell it myself. And there are people who do sell properties themselves. But to be honest, I think that the bulk of the market would welcome a professional and do welcome a professional intermediary, really, is all we are, to show the property. And Auctioneera, of course, has estate agents. So the big difference, I think really, to be honest, the only difference that we're talking about is the price. So our price is significantly lower. But what we would say is that those incumbents or high-fee commission-based agents, as we would call them, are just simply too expensive for the work that's involved.
But back to selling a property, you may not have somebody on the high street, but you have to have it in a back street. You have to have some office. You have to have people and a presence.
Yeah,
so you're not actually saving that amount of money.
So we do have presence. I'm confusing you there. We actually do have offices around Dublin. So we've an office in Santry, we've an office in Tala, we've an office in Dalkey, Sandyford, and we've also got an office actually in Cork City. But and the agents are based there, and they're from those areas. They're knowledgeable about those areas. I'm just talking about, the actual behaviour of people walking down the street and looking in the window at property listings, property photographs is gone. So yes, of course, there still has to be an agent in an area and has to be an agent who knows a locality. But the physical physical action of going into an estate agent and sitting down at an office desk with an estate agent saying, can you show me the properties you have in your books?
But are you telling me that I am paying 5,000 quid on average extra for the privilege or the joy of sitting beside an estate agent?
I would say so, to be honest, because it's such I suppose a traditional industry that the pricing structure has been in place for so long that it's one that kind of almost is, doesn't get judged. For example, when a property goes sale agreed, it enters conveyancing. So the period from sale agreed to sold is conveyancing. And that's obviously handled by solicitors. They actually get paid less than an estate agent. And it's, to be honest, it could be seen as the more difficult, the more important segment of the property sale. So, I do think that maybe if you spoke to some solicitors, and I know you do legal podcasts, so, I think if you spoke to some legal people, they may think that maybe estate agents are overpaid as well, so they might be in Team Auctioneera.
I'm still trying to figure this one out. Is that the only difference that I can now see is the fact that you're not on the so-called high street, on the main street.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that I can't look in the window. But now I can avoid looking in the window for 5,000 quid very easily.
Yes, by coming to Auctioneera.
But how come the obvious ones, the big ones, the Sherrys, the DNGs, how come they haven't adopted your model?
Well, I guess, Conal, maybe they have, substantial costs and overheads that they can't reduce to the degree that we can. I suppose that would be a question you would have to answer them. But I do think that the process of selling a property, if you break it down, isn't an overly complicated one. And simply, I would go back to the mantra, really, that they are simply charging too much for the process that is involved. And I would say as well, maybe where what you're wondering, like, why aren't we the number one? I suppose it's, as I said already, it's a very traditional industry. And I suppose selling a property, it's a hugely it's a big moment for people, a big transaction, one of the biggest probably transactions they'll do in their lives. So, people do put a huge amount of weight in terms of brand. So for us, breaking into the industry definitely is challenging. Branding is huge, and we're still really, really working on that. Now,
which is your area, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Now, it has gotten easier, certainly. It has definitely gotten easier. We're 4.5 years in this industry, and probably even most industries in today's world, people are very, very much more savvy. So they will always check reviews. So people might make a phone call to us, but they will still have that air of, like you had, what's the catch? If they haven't heard of us previously. Now, thankfully, we get a lot of word of mouth as well. But people check our reviews, and thankfully we have hundreds of reviews from both buyers and sellers. And that really comforts people because they can see actual experience of working with Auctioneera and how the price is absolutely an amazing thing. But also the customer service is absolutely a delight to them.
Now, the customer service, you're back to... Is the agent does he or she work with Auctioneera?
Absolutely. All the Auctioneera estate agents are employed by Auctioneera.
Okay. So take, when markets change all the time in property, sometimes it can take a very long time to sell a property. Are you going to make weekly, maybe even more frequent calls to a house to show tire kickers in the main, but other genuine buyers sometimes for, I think on average, your cost is €1,700, is that right?
Yes, our fee to sell a property is €1,799 plus VAT.
Divide that by 2 is suddenly becomes small, and by 4 and by 8, the numbers of days or times of visits to a house and you will come to a point rather rapidly where it's just not worth people's time pitching up. For your agent or for your Auctioneera person.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I suppose in the last number of years, the market is such that that never becomes a problem. Properties generally will sell in quite a quick...
Fine. So what happens in a year or 3 years' time when things are really slow?
Yeah, sure. Well, we have, I suppose, costed out everything very, very carefully, as you can imagine, with the price that we charge. So we have made, provision for a set amount of viewings, which, to be honest, we've never even reached. So it wouldn't even be an iota of a concern. I would say if the market actually did dip, if there was a significant issue in the market, I would say that maybe this would be of benefit to Auctioneera because people are tightening the belts a little bit more. And actually, it's really interesting. I was talking to a lady a couple of weeks ago who sold through us and was, a little bit sceptical at the start and was delighted with the result that she achieved, over maybe 10 or 15,000 euro over the asking price. And she said, with the savings that I've got by using Auctioneera and as in the estate agency savings plus the over the asking price that the market achieved, I'm not saying that Auctioneera achieved it, the market achieves the price. She was, looking forward to upgrading her kitchen even further in her new property. So it was really, really great to see that. Because, we talk to vendors all the time and it's like, I always think like, why should an estate agent benefit from their property? We should be charging a reasonable fee, which we are. So it's really great to see something like that happen.
The model has been, doesn't mean it's always right, that certain companies are specialists in certain areas around the city here. I could rattle off a couple of names that you probably know. So there is kind of a specialization, is there not? How do you tackle that? For example, I don't know, take Dublin 4. How can you show that you have that specialist knowledge if it's needed? And that's a question.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. But I suppose, we would never scrimp and never would even consider such a thing in terms of showcasing a property. So at the end of the day, the market values the property. So how do you get people out to see the property? So every estate agent is going to have their property on Daft and on My Home. Auctioneer is going to have it on Daft and on My Home, that property in Dublin 4. We have an in-house professional photographer and videographer. I'm not sure every estate agent has that. So we will showcase the property in an absolutely professional manner. We do floor plans. This is the same as every other estate agent. Our estate agents are as experienced as all the other estate agents that you talk about. They're knowledgeable in the area. So for me, it's about showcasing it on phase 1, where it's, stage 1, where people, i.e. the buyers are, which is on Daft and on My Home. It doesn't matter what the price of the property is. Ultimately, the market's going to be on Daft and on My Home. They're going to be looking at the property. Yes, it's going to need to be showcased well. So with those tools, i.e. the photographs, the videos, and the floor plans to show the layout of the property. You know, knowledge about the architecture for me isn't going to do anything to get them into the property. If they get to the property and do a viewing, then of course the estate agent is 100% going to be knowledgeable about the property because they create a relationship with the vendor, and the vendor, you know, gives all of the information that they feel sells the property themselves. So certain vendors, you know, consider certain things special features, and of course we allow them to highlight that. But I just think that it's all about, you know, that smartphone in people's pocket. That's where the market is. So it's about getting feet across the doorstep into the property, and if they love it, they will obviously make an offer.
You obviously, with your co-founder Eddie O'Driscoll, have your ears very closely to the ground. What is the feedback that you've heard from the established ones, the Sherrys, the Lisneys, etc.?
As in about...
What do they say about you? Do they hate you?
God. You know, we keep our ears closed. We just wouldn't even... To be honest, I think if you get bogged down in what your competitors are saying about you, obviously you have to be aware. But to be honest, Eddie and I are very focused on our own business, and to be honest, we're too busy
to even... What are they saying about you? Did they all say that'll never last?
I'm sure they...
Did anybody else try this before?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I know people sometimes compare us to companies in the UK, but, you know, like, I'm not sure if you're aware of the likes of Purple Bricks and so on. But we are a little bit different.
It's still in business, but just about, isn't it? Or did
Pardon me.
Purple Bricks...
It is still in business now. They had to, I think, withdraw from certain international markets and so on. But they would be kind of mostly seen as an online agency. We are not an online only agency. We are the same as every other estate agent in Ireland. As I said, the biggest difference with Auctioneera is the price.
And speaking of the price, because it is or appears to be considerably cheaper, particularly because it's on a sliding scale, I was on your website and I was playing around with it. The savings can be quite substantial.
They can, yes.
Talking of numbers now, talk me through what are you seeing in terms of your market share? Has it gone from small to just a little bit bigger, or...
It's, you know, as I said earlier in our chat, at the start it was very, you know, difficult because you're getting a lot of trepidation and almost suspicion. You know, I haven't heard of you and so on. It's definitely getting easier, and it has definitely our share is increased, and it's increasing all the time. I suppose one indicator is like we're constantly looking for new estate agents. We're now at 4 estate agents, and we're looking to add our 5th and likely our 6th in the next 2 to 3 months.
Did I see that you have gone into Galway? Did I see a guy in Galway?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And we cover also not just Dublin, I should have meant to say parts of Meath, parts of Wicklow, and obviously parts of North Kildare. The hope would be that we would cover all of Ireland. We do get calls from people saying, you know, oh, can you come and sell my property in Limerick? And the disappointment is palpable in their voice. We obviously would, but we can't service all of the country.
And when you say that you're looking for estate agents, what are you looking for? You're looking for established agents, or?
Of course. I mean, to be honest, not just with estate agents for Auctioneera, just the people in the company is just absolutely paramount in terms of the, you know, people in your company is everything. And just, you know, good work ethic. And so on. But what I mean is that we have 4 estate agents in Auctioneer at the moment. We're always looking for good people, to be honest. And we only take on estate agents that we feel fit our model, energetic, enthusiastic, and experienced.
But the guy down, because it is a man, I think, down in Galway, he is now an Auctioneera employee.
They're all Auctioneera employees.
In Galway, cool.
Exactly.
So he is going to cover Galway City, presumably.
Sure.
And then would that not be a model that could be very quickly? You could have all of the major cities.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. That's the goal.
No, but you could do it very quickly.
Yeah, of course. But I do think that I suppose the main market is in Dublin and in Cork. And we do feel that it's important to stay focused. Like Eddie and myself talk about sometimes is getting distracted by certain things. And
such as?
You know, just different avenues. So, you know, even just looking in business in general, you know, looking at the likes of, you know, for example, I think Revolut or moving into guest services like Airbnb and so on.
And they're all Revolut also this morning announced that they're going to do a kind of a WhatsApp and messaging.
Yes.
I do understand exactly.
I can see that. Yeah, like I can understand that. It's kind of a natural progression because obviously, if you send someone money and then you want to message them saying, did you get that? You have to go into like maybe WhatsApp. So it's to keep it native. So I understand that. But I just think that it's important to stay focused because in this, especially in industry like estate agency, which is so traditional, it's so important to stay focused. I think as well, a challenge that we felt was that Eddie and I, neither of us are property background.
You've got a marketing background.
Exactly.
If I remember,
I'm marketing and so would Eddie. I did a business marketing degree and I did a PR and marketing master's. So I think that is good though, because I think it's important to have not important, but I think it's good to have a fresh outlook when you enter an industry because you see things through fresh eyes. You look at things objectively and you see maybe things that you can improve and opportunities and so on. So I do think that there's advantages and maybe disadvantages of it too sometimes as well.
What's the bigger goal? When will you say turn to around to Eddie and say, we've actually made it now? Do you, can you, or do you dream? You're allowed to dream in business. Can you see a day when you actually smash all the other ones up?
Just to take over more market share. I would like to be more like the dominant force in the capital, and I don't see why we can't be. I don't see why we can't be the one that has all the for sale signs outside the front doors. Because to be honest, I just think we're solving a problem there for people. They're overpaying for estate agency fees currently, and they don't need to. And I think it's important to know that the likes of us are around, and we are reliable, and our reviews show that. So they can save thousands and they can put those estate agency fee savings into buying a new car or upgrading that kitchen.
The kitchen. Now, you are primarily aimed at the Republic. Can you go into Northern Ireland or is there a different model there again?
There's a different model there. I'm not even sure if they're regulated in the UK, to be honest, but it wouldn't be something the UK, I'd say, would be down the list of targets. As I said, for me, I would like to stay more focused in Ireland first. Just to get to be number one in terms of estate agency. We do have other, arms to our business. I don't know if you saw on our website, we have a marketplace where people can actually get prices for conveyancing solicitors and so on. They're obviously independent of Auctioneera and they can get prices for BER assessors and also for property surveyor. So if someone wants to buy a house, they can get quotations for all of those.
Do you see, you have gone down the WhatsApp / Revolut route there.
Not really.
I'm joking. So market share, give me a number because I want to bring you back in, say in 2 years' time. What market share do you dream of having?
I would like to have as big market share as
a
we possibly
can. A number. 10%.
At least 10%, yes, certainly.
20%?
That would be fantastic, yes.
I'd say it would be.
Yes.
If you needed, if you had 20, how many people would you need? How many people do you need to hire to get that? Because there is a correlation
there is
somewhere.
A correlation. I mean, we're actively hiring all the time, but I'm sure, with the cogs and the wheels turning, we would probably need to, probably 10 to 20, I would say, estate agents. But there's a lot of other like, as I said, we have photographers. Like our estate agents don't write their property descriptions, for example. We have content writers to do that. So we want our estate agents, our auctioneer estate agents, to be focused on the most important part of the process of selling a property, which is negotiation. So, that is so important to us. And that's why our reviews are stellar, because our estate agents are able to focus on the process of selling and in the process of getting our vendors the best price for their property.
That was one hell of an ad. Come here to my final question. Hire in a heartbeat. Who would Helen O'Keefe hire in a heartbeat? Eddie and I discussed this, and it would definitely be Pat Phelan, a fellow Cork person. Pat, I know Pat.
Do you know Pat? Yes.
So, currently of Sisu.
I was just going to say, which I think is really interesting. Like Pat's background, starting in the most unlikely of places in butchering, and then moving on to being a chef. And, he's had his challenges and, elements.
He very openly talks about his alcoholism.
He's an open book in that regard. But then to move into an industry like the business that he had initially was Cubic Telecom, and then on to Trustev and exiting those so successfully, and then moving into a completely, nobody would have expected him to move into aesthetic clinics, which I find just really interesting and intriguing, to be honest. And I just love the fact that Pat is an open book on social media, and you can see literally Pat scraping stickers off windows of properties, or the new outlets for Sisu and so on. And I just think that can resonate with me, because he's not from the aesthetic clinic industry and never was, but he's entered it with gusto, and I think that is fantastic with the energy that he has. It just shows what's possible. And I just think, in fairness to Pat, he's always open. Now, he's a busy man, which I can totally appreciate, but you can feel that he's open to mentorship and so on. And I just feel he's a great learning experience you could be to be around him. So I would love Pat to be around us to learn from him.
Have you met with him? Have you had a chat with him?
No, I haven't. I think maybe I've messaged him on social media. He does regular Q&As and so on. I'm sure I've asked him a question at some point. I have this image of Pat in my head when he was working in the States. You remember he went to New York. And it was freezing. Yes.
And there was a photograph that he took of himself, because he does do that a lot, or used to anyway. And he was utterly freezing, but he was working about 25 hours a day to get that deal done. And in a teeny weeny little apartment. And he is a pretty impressive guy.
He's a really impressive guy. Yes, I would agree.
Helen O'Keefe, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
Thinking of travel? If so, make sure to make De Facto, the world's best shaving oil, your choice of travel companion. A 25ml bottle of De Facto means no hassle at airports, no bulky cans to carry, and the guarantee of the world's best shave. DeFactoShave.com.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
Most anyone in business knows the tech brand name HP, formerly Hewlett-Packard. Few of you will remember a tech company called Plantronics that became Poly. Both companies have a big presence in Galway, though. Well, just a few weeks ago, HP finalised its purchase of Poly, as both companies take a big bet on the office of the future, wherever and whatever that office may be. Paul Dunne is Senior Director covering all of EMEA with Poly and joins me now in studio. Paul, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you, Connell. Delighted to be here.
You have been flogging hybrid technology, if I can call it that, for a long time. So you're not surprised at all that we have gone the hybrid route, correct?
Completely correct. We like to say in Poly that we have been in the hybrid working business since 1969, because that was the year that Neil Armstrong wore one of our devices when he spoke those immortal words from the moon. And we're incredibly proud as a business that we managed to make that device that successfully traveled to the moon and successfully transmitted those words using 1960s technology.
That was when he says, hello, this isn't working. Can you hear me? That one. I think you mean the one about one giant step and all that, yeah?
That's exactly what I mean. Those immortal words that were spoken through. And
that was really, that was the Plantronics as it was then. It's now Poly. It was one of your headsets, yeah?
Yeah, we've been an incredibly innovative company for a long time. We were founded by two airline pilots who decided that they'd make lightweight aviation headsets. They
tell me they were called Vector and Victor. No,
they were. That's why they call the company Plantronics, which is short for Plane Electronics. They developed lightweight headsets. They got onto the Apollo program, and the company has been going from strength to strength
That is pretty good.
since.
I love the idea of beaming in from the moon. 1969. The vast majority of people listening probably weren't even born then.
They probably weren't, but it's one of the reasons why, particularly during COVID, my LinkedIn feed kind of drove me a little bit crazy. And then I got bored and then I got irritated because it was full of people taking photographs of their home office when they'd suddenly set themselves up to work remotely and, quite frankly, thinking they had discovered fire. And we looked at it and thought, okay, we've been doing this for a really long time and we've been talking about the benefits of flexible working for a very long time. And as a company, most of us who work here who can work flexibly all the time.
And that is why you are here, because I'm going to ask you to spill the beans. Tell me what to expect. I know lots of people have lots of views. We've had people in about flexible offices, about what the future may be, about people working in Israel or in Portugal and kind of reporting into Ireland. Their options are myriad. Give me the Paul Dunne version of the now and the future.
My view on it is pretty simple. You need to look at the three things that people typically do during their working day. And we refer to those things as concentration, collaboration, and I've actually forgotten the third one.
That's okay. Well, we'll come back to that one.
Let's come back to the minute.
Yeah.
So,
what about coffee? That's
contemplation. Thank you. That was.
What about coffee? They make coffee.
Coffee always sounds good. But when we talk about these things that people do, first of all, if your job requires lots and lots of concentration, and often it does, working remotely can be a great idea. You can work from anywhere you want, where you're not going to be distracted, including your home, and you get the job done. It's all about concentration. And then different people, or same people at different times of the year or different times of the week, collaboration suddenly becomes very important. And in that case, it really pays to be around people. And you can see how modern offices are changing to support collaboration in all of its forms. And I think that's what's missing from this conversation. It's not about the conversation shouldn't start with where should I work from. The conversation should start with what do I want to do today? And therefore, based on what I want to do, I will make the decision myself in terms of where is the best place for me to work.
When we started this podcast almost 2.5 years ago with Jamie Heaslip here, we chose not to do any Zoom/Teams calls with anybody because the sound quality is on broadcast simply appalling. I was listening to a national radio station this morning. Same thing. I just don't understand. I'm going to sound a bit old here now. Where are the standards? It's awful. But you're now going to tell me, they're obviously not using the right equipment. If they used poly equipment, they'd sound so much better. Is it getting any better? Because it frequently sounds like you're down in a toilet bowl.
Well, first of all, we're in the real-time communications business. I mean, if someone says, what do we do? That in a pithy tweet, that's how I would describe our business. So what I would say is that if you're moving data around a computer network, it doesn't quite matter how the data gets there, as long as it gets to the other end. And the network can have a little bit of a jitter or it can stop, but eventually the data starts flowing. If we're in the real-time communications business, that can't happen.
But it does happen.
It does, yeah.
Why? And where's the future? And fix it for me now, please.
Well, first of all, our recommendation is that, people need to use the right types of hardware. I mean, one thing you can't fight in life are the laws of physics. And the laws of physics dictate that if you can get a microphone a bit closer to your mouth, you are going to sound a whole lot better. And if you have the technology that'll drown out the screaming baby or the dog barking or the doorbell ringing and all of that stuff, that's going to lead to a better experience as well. And our job as a hardware manufacturer, primarily, is to design hardware that works in these sorts of challenging environments and that is intuitive to use. So that, for example, if you are on a call and you're not speaking, the device should put you on mute, or you should press a button and the device should now go you are on mute.
But that's fine. You press the button because then you have to press the button to unmute again, which is not normal conversation. I don't hold my lips when I stop speaking, which is a rarity.
I would disagree with you because I think we're getting better as conversationalists. And one of the things I think that remote working has taught us when we're working when we're video conferencing, for example, people start paying under those circumstances a bit more attention to all of the people who are remote. I've seen it in our own business where we look for the clues where people want to participate in the meeting. And sure, with using the technology, you can electronically raise your hand. But as you scan across the room, one of the things that will make remote working a whole lot better is if you realize that you got to look out for these clues and actively include everybody in the meeting. So one of the things you'll find happens in our organization is if you're in a meeting and 6 people are there and only 3 have contributed, we will, as a business, ask the people who haven't spoke, is there something that you'll want to say? Because we don't all have big, boomy voices that can interrupt everybody else. You've got to give people an opportunity to speak.
I'm lucky that I do MC at those kind of events, at larger events like that. It is painful trying to scan and keep an eye on people. I can come off that, say an hour, and you're absolutely knackered from trying to second guess what's going on. It doesn't really work, does it?
Oh, I think it does. And I think we're getting better at it as humans.
Which is fine, getting better. But at the moment, it still is very tough going. And the bit, though, that I saw that I really liked is this thing about your new cameras. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the new cameras. I'm excited by these, actually.
Oh, this is fantastic technology. What our cameras do is they use AI to zoom in on the right people who are contributing to a meeting at a particular time. Well, typically you'll join a call, 6 or 7 people could be in a room. It will show all of them. And as people are contributing to the meeting, the camera will scan to that person. While they're contributing, it'll zoom in a little bit closer to them. When they're finished, it'll scan back. It'll wait for the next person. It'll zoom into them. So if you're a remote participant dialed into that room, it creates a much more natural experience than the one that you would normally expect to get.
Now, at the moment, at home, we sit in front of our tablets and or our phones or our laptops and we chat away. When will we see these really clever cameras being available for home? Now, I'm talking about that are affordable. I'm sure somebody very wealthy has them already.
Depends on what your definition of affordable is.
How much are those cameras?
I have a fantastic device in my home office for a product. I mean, it's a €600-700 device.
And what does it do?
It has that camera technology in it.
But you're talking, so therefore it just happens to click on you when you start talking. But it doesn't zoom around the room.
Well, I can adjust the camera as I see fit, either manually or I can let it do its own thing. And in parallel to the camera working away, it's using its own technology to only pick up my voice. So it knows it's me. And if there's sounds that are going on around me, it can filter a lot of that noise out. So you get a much better experience at the other end.
I've seen that mentioned on literature. I've not heard that. Does that actually work?
Yes, it does. We call it acoustic fence because it does exactly that. It just gives you a lovely zone around the microphone where it's only picking up your voice. So we've used that technology in our video conferencing devices, but we've been using technology to drown out spurious noise from our headset devices for 12 years, I think.
You know it's the end of podcasting.
Never.
I'll tell you why. I would love to have that kind of technology sitting here, and that because on editing, the editing is the big problem if you want to have voices and vision. But if you're already with AI picking up everybody who's speaking, there are no edits. It's natural. And we in fact, I know we will be doing this hopefully earlier or shorter or sooner rather than later. But it will be audio becomes video because there's no reason why not to. You can listen to it, but you can also watch it if you so wish.
Well, it would be great to be able to. If a podcast became a podcast with video, fantastic.
It's called a videocast.
Videocast.
Make one small switch. Switching from shaving foam to all-natural de facto shaving oil will give you the smoothest, softest shave ever. Switching from shaving oil to de facto helps stop 20 million non-recyclable shaving foam cans go to landfills every year. Switching from shaving oil to de facto will save your skin, your pocket, and your planet. DeFactoShave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of Team GBS.
All that great business show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
That great business show.
So what else is coming down the tracks that is exciting for people, in particularly because our audience is SME? What will we be able to do as SMEs using whatever technology or whoever's technology is coming?
Well, the great news for SMEs is once they understand, first of all, the benefits of hybrid working and how to implement it in their own organisation. If you remember what I said earlier about based on the tasks you're doing in a particular day, you decide where you want to be. If you're working for a SME in Ireland, office space is expensive. And we've seen considerable number of companies in the country who've rationalised their office space, where they've said that in most cases, their office space is going to be a collaboration space. And for work that requires concentration, go and do it somewhere else. And people are very happy to do that, to have that flexibility in their life. Well, almost all of us love and crave human contact. And of course, we're going to want to come into the office from time to time to meet people. But you think about the benefit to an SME when somebody can say, I'm not going to come into the office tomorrow. I'm going to be doing these tasks. And if you're that person working from home, you can be there when the washing machine needs to be repaired or the kids come home early from school or need a pickup. And it allows people to, first of all, be treated like adults by their employer. And who doesn't like that? Gives them that extra bit of flexibility. And it means if they do have to be at home for a particular reason, they don't have to take a sickie or make some excuses to why they're not there.
So what technology that you're aware of, I love futurology, is there anything that's really exciting coming down the tracks that we will see in day to day that the company like yours, Polly, is actually working on at the moment?
What you'll see from us is more and more immersive experiences when it comes to remote meetings.
What does that mean?
What it means is you will never get, remote will never be as good or as pure as human contact with two people in a room. So we accept that. But as a technology vendor, we're getting closer and closer to that experience.
Such as, what are you doing or how am I seeing that? I haven't not seen this at all. So I'm just wondering, I presume you're not talking about those funny backgrounds where I could be sitting in my house, but in fact the Hawaii is in the background. Nothing like that, I presume.
Not at all, no. But we will be able to see people in higher definition. And the technology will get better. It'll become more and more intuitive to use. And of course, once the technology is intuitive to use, you forget about the technology. And then you can start acting much more naturally in a meeting.
Let me just ask you one of my more stupid questions. How come it isn't there now? Higher definition cameras, better quality sound. All of, TV has been doing it since, I think TV started in 1928. They've only been at it for 100 years. So how come we're so late to the game and using it for this remote working?
Well, one of the things, this is one of my favourite subjects because anything that a company or any activity that we engage in is always some sort of a compromise. So you're trying to balance as a technology vendor, how big can I make this device? How heavy can I make the battery? what else do people need to carry around all day? And then there's dependencies, such as how much bandwidth am I going to get for this particular call? So the devices get better and better at dealing with less and less bandwidth in many cases, and then much more challenging environments. And by way of example, I spend a lot of time as part of my job in front of my clients. That's what I try and do as much as possible. And that for me means a lot of travel, and it means a lot of flying. I can now very confidently sit in a noisy airport, put on one of our devices and take part in a meeting, either with clients or people within my own business. And then suddenly that improves the quality of my life. And because I can be anywhere in order to take those calls or to have that client interaction, it means I become much more flexible in terms of my day, in terms of where I can be. And of course, it's a much better experience for everybody else on the other line.
Which is fine and dandy, but you still haven't told me when we will see this big shift. Now, I'm talking about a big jump, because you guys are working, you've got 25 engineers down in Galway, haven't you?
Yeah.
Thinking big thoughts about this. When are they going to put up their hands and say, we've got something really cool here?
Well, I would say to you that they're doing that on a monthly basis.
But I'm still not seeing it. I don't mean your Poly product. I'm talking about in general. Zooms haven't changed very much, have they, over the last couple of years? Zoom is, or our Teams. In fact, the Teams cameras are better than Zoom cameras, but a Zoom strikes me as being more stable than Teams. Discuss.
Conal, I'm definitely not going to get into the discussion with you of a discussion between Zoom and Microsoft and Google or whoever else is going to be in that space. Our job as a vendor is to make our products as good as they can possibly be. Of course it is,
but you're using it and you're an expert on it and you have views on it, and I want to hear them, because it is genuinely interesting to me that why isn't it better? It strikes me as that it's kind of bicycle where it should be a Ferrari.
What are you comparing it to? Because I would say to you, it is
I watch
hugely
TV
better
every night and I see quality, and I just wonder why we can't match that. You're not going into a major TV or film production. You just want somebody's face and voice and something good, but not. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. But I'm not getting that all of the time, and I do wonder why.
Okay. I mean, I am laughing at what you're describing there, but let me go back to the early days of COVID, if I may. As a technology vendor, we've been doing this a long time, and for us, joining a call, participating in a call is second nature. It just worked. And then at the beginning of COVID, we watched thousands and thousands of people who are completely never worked in that environment before, all trying to get themselves set up from home so that they can take part in those calls. And the beginning of COVID, it was painful. Joined when somebody was unfamiliar with the technology, and there was 5 minutes of I can't hear you, 5 minutes of I can't see you, followed by 5 minutes of you're on mute. So that was already 15 minutes gone of a 30-minute conversation.
That was probably done deliberately. I can't see you. Sorry, no, I can't see you there. No, sorry.
Okay, now you're just being deliberately provocative. But what I love about that now is that 3 years on, it just works. It's not a big deal. People join these calls and it works. So I would argue with you. We've seen the great leap forward, because first of all,
wasn't it, was it?
Well,
I want to see a bigger and better leap forward.
Well, there were several leaps, because first of all, there was the leap in the technology, and then there was a leap in trust that it would work, and there was a leap in employers' trust as well, going, this now works, we're going to let people do this. So I think you've kind of missed it. I think it happened over a 3-year period, and it really works now.
It wouldn't be the first time I've been told that. How and ever, an avatar. Why isn't there an avatar of me and or of you? You know what I mean? These lookalikes that we can see talking to me. Why aren't you beaming into me as you sit there from your offices, wherever?
Because we all like face-to-face conversation.
I want to be the first podcast that has an avatar or whatever they're called. Do you know what I'm talking about these, music is going this direction. And in fact, I was talking to somebody the other day about the ABBA experience in London, where the 4 people from ABBA are singing up on stage. Do you know this at all?
I do know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, why isn't that possible yet? As me and you just chatting.
Well, first of all, I think it is possible because the ABBA experience proves that it is. Then it becomes a question of actually whether you want to do that or whether you want to sit in front of a human being.
I want both, maybe. Anyway. So, any other big announcements that you are going to tell me now and destroy the announcements for Polly and or HP, whoever is in the ascendant?
Well, I'm certainly not going to
Yes, you
do
are.
any pre-announce any big announcements. But
Anything
we
good coming down the tracks? Anything that you don't have to tell me exactly what it is, but anything really, really interesting?
What's really interesting for us as a company is watching the culture of Polly and the culture of HP colliding and mixing in a really wonderful way. We talked about what Polly did in 1969 with Neil Armstrong. Bear in mind that HP are also a very old technology company. Disney were using their oscilloscopes in 1940 when that Fantasia music was released.
Is that made on a HP or a Hewlett-Packard system, was it?
Hewlett-Packard oscilloscopes were used during that movie when it was being shown in the movie theatres.
Yeah.
So
Still a great movie.
So
Still a beautiful movie.
it's a beautiful, beautiful movie. But you think about a company like HP, who have been around for that long and have been that successful and have a real history of being an engineering R&D company, and it's about breakthroughs. And if you look at what we've done as Polly as an organisation, it's about the products, it's about our engineering. And what we're really looking forward to is all of that coming together.
Are you hiring down in Galway?
We are hiring down in Galway, yeah. We've got a great guy there called Joe Goggins, who's head of engineering.
He's out with his net trying to get some engineers, is he?
We're always looking for talent in our organisation.
Cool.
Yes.
Nice place to work from. Final question. You do know what it is. I'm going to ask you, who would Paul Dunne hire in a heartbeat?
Esther Perel.
Talk to me.
Esther Perel is a psychologist.
We like them.
She has done some fantastic TED Talks about relationships. She's written a wonderful book called Mating in Captivity and really has built a career out of engineering, forging, improving and working on relationships with people.
So therefore, you have a reason for liking Esther Perel. What did you learn? Give me one big learning that you got from her.
Relationships are everything.
Hence, the whole thing about remote working will never work. Is that it?
Absolutely not, because I would love to have Esther Perel within the organisation talking about how we can do even more to build relationships across countries and across continents. I've worked for Polly for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years in March of next year. And when you work in an organisation for that long, in order to get things done, you get them done through working with people, by cooperating with people. And if those relationships work, you can just get so much more done as a business.
Where did you come across Esther?
Her TED Talk.
Okay. And it's obviously worth a listen. Esther Perel, we're going to hire her. Actually, any chance that do you know her? Do you ever come across her, meet her?
I wish I
But it's the
did
kind of
meet her.
thing big corporations like yours actually have. You have meet and greets with very famous people. If you do come across her, tell her we'd love to have her on that great business show. And we're also delighted to have had Paul Dunne, Sales and Marketing for Ireland and the UK at Polly and across the EMEA and many, many other things. Thank you so much for joining us on that great business show. And that is it from That Great Business Show, episode 112. And do make sure to press the share button on LinkedIn. No other button, just the share button, please, and do it now. Send the podcast link to your pals also via WhatsApp. They'll be very impressed with your listening choice. Your business should advertise with us. That's a given. Give me a shout on LinkedIn if you'd like to know more. And we record here at the Dublin South Podcast Studios. Today's man pushing his buttons again is sound engineer Lee Brennan. And later on, Neil Horner will add that extra sparkle that makes us the best sounding podcast in the digital universe. If you would like to record a podcast, do contact Peter Rice here at the Dublin South Podcast Studios. Our new legal podcast, that's The Fifth Court, is still holding its position at number 4 in the podcast charts. Do check it out. You'll learn a truckload about the law from barrister presenters Peter Leonard and Mark Tottenham. And we will be announcing the launch of even more podcasts like The Fifth Court that we are involved in the near future. And if you'd like to have your own podcast, have a chat with us. We will bring it to another level. All of those great business insights that you have heard and the tips are brought to you, as always, thanks to our sponsor, De Facto Shaving Oil, the world's best all-natural shaving oil. They back us, please back them. DeFactoShave.com will get them too. And do not forget to buy Business Plus magazine, where we now have our regular column all about the podcast. So, from me, Conal O'Moran, Míle buchas for listening, agus slán tamil.